Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to REACHA Dialogues. Today with us we have Chika Ogele, and he's a very good friend of mine. And very happy, Chika, you could spare some time from your very busy routine and be here and share some of the things you've learned through your experiences at your school and also like your some of the jobs that you've worked at.
Mhm.
I'll quickly start by giving a quick introduction to you about the blog and what I'm trying to do with the blog.
For
So
sure.
the blog is called REACHA Dialogues, and basically the purpose or the aim for me to create the blog was basically get people from various different backgrounds and different journeys that they have had, and
Mhm.
based on the discussion I would have with them on this blog, the learnings coming out of that, if that can like help people who are younger, who are aspiring to do something in their lives, and just something meaningful if that can come out of a conversation. And definitely like you're one of the people who I could see you work very hard, and you have done a lot of things by like working hard. So definitely very happy to have you. And to the audience, I'll quickly start by giving a quick introduction about Chika.
Cool.
So Chika did his undergraduate degree from New York University, and specifically from the Stern School. He did his major was in finance, and after working in NYU, after studying at NYU, Chika joined Goldman Sachs at Wall Street, and he was working there for a few years, and which like we'll of course like talk about. Chika will share his experiences about that, and currently he's working at a startup firm called Eat Sleep. And again, we'll let Chika talk a bit about that firm as well and some of his experiences. Um, to begin with, let's first deep dive into how your experience was at NYU. And like there's so many people around the world who are actually looking at NYU as their a potential school. So what were some of the things that you learned at NYU, and what would you tell to these people who are trying to look uh, for this school as their potential school?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first off, I just want to say thank you for having me. Definitely happy to be here and help out, and I really do. I really do like the mission that you have for this. So I wish you all the success with it. But as for NYU, dude, NYU was an amazing time. I highly recommend anyone that is interested in the school rather, to dive into it, learn about the different schools within the university, Stern, CAS. And I think what I really liked about it so much was that first off, I almost feel like you're kind of launched into adulthood a bit quicker when you go to school in New York City. And the whole thing at NYU is that the campus is the city rather is the campus, and it really does feel like it. Your dorm could be either somewhere in like Chinatown, or your dorm could be in Union Square. And yeah, you just feel really ingrained in the community, in the city rather, and the city is the community. And also what I really like about NYU is just so diverse, like at least in terms of like the types of people you run into. You have international students from all over, and I've made friends from people from all around the world, the country as well. There's so many people from different states and whatnot, and just a lot of different backgrounds too, which I appreciated. So I feel like yes, it's a good education, but I think you also have an opportunity to grow a lot as a person and see a lot of different things and people at NYU, and they should be sponsoring me from the way that I'm speaking so highly of them.
Yeah. And so you of course definitely like touch upon some of the good points, like how it's great into city, and basically like when you're actually going to college, it feels like it's not really like a camp, it's like a very big campus, which is like the entire city. So at what point, like when you were studying, did you like you started thinking about your jobs and also like specifically finance as a profession? Like a lot of people around the world, they know like how specifically in New York, like it's a big hub for finance jobs. So did that also play like an important factor in you choosing finance as like a prospective career as you were like trying to get out of NYU?
I think so. I think especially in my school, where in my business school, you always saw people freshman year, they were getting internships at like at JP Morgan, the Morgan Stanleys of the world, and then top tier banks, and kind of lights a fire under you. You kind of wonder, oh man, I should probably get on it. So I think that finance for me was originally like let me just make sure I'm doing something so that I'm not wasting time, because I didn't really, didn't have a clear idea of what I was going to do. So I ended up looking for an internship starting like sophomore summer, and I ended up getting my first one at Goldman in junior fall. So I was actually going to school and interning at the same time, which, by the way, is another benefit of potentially going to NYU if you're interested in finance.
Yeah, definitely. And can we also like touch upon some of the experiences that you had? We've heard so much about like specifically finance jobs and Wall Street jobs. Working in Wall Street, like sometimes it can be like a struggle. Sometimes it's like very fun. Sometimes like a lot of like mixed things about it. And then a lot of people though, like who who like the financial area, they always like aspire to like try to at least gain some experience at Wall Street. So how was your experience, like like starting your internship and also like the few years you spent working there?
It was it was it was it has its ups and downs, but I would say that overall it's a really good experience, and you can potentially learn a lot depending on where you are. I think for me particularly, I kind of came into it because I was interested in just learning more about debt and credit, and that was what my group was focused on. So I got that opportunity to do just that. But in terms of like the ups, I have to say it's like the people. The people are amazing. The people that I met are amazing, super smart, and they're in my network today. And even if they're not there right now, they're all going on to do great things, which is kind of like the similar benefit that you get from going to like a really good university as well. People are usually doing good things, and you want to build that network. Learned a lot, like I said before. And honestly, I feel like you build up a work ethic. Like if you don't already have a work ethic from going into from when you were going into banking initially, you have no choice but to build one while you're there. And like you saw me working, so for a fact my work ethic was big when you saw me in my room just working through COVID. But yeah, that's what I say for the ups. The downs is that it could definitely be a high pressure environment. Of course, you can be working some weekends or a couple weekends depending on how the workload is. And if you're someone that you want a 9 to 5, I don't think I'm saying anything controversial here, but like if you want a 9 to 5, you don't really go into, at least not the banking side of an investment bank or finance, but there are roles definitely within like the Goldman Sachs of the world that you can have more of a 9 to 5 job.
Yeah, no, 100%. And you briefly touched upon, like how there was so much pressure, like so many times in your job scenario. And also it's like back to back, you have to keep staying at top of your game. Like you have to keep performing. You can't, be making a lot of mistakes. So definitely, what do you think, at least like you're in your head, or was there something outside of the work that you did that, like helped you stay quite consistent at work, and also like, just also deal with this kind of pressure? Because as you mentioned, right, this is a job, this field is something which is beyond 9 to 5. So
Yeah.
pretty much a lot of times, the only thing that you can do beyond work is just sleep. And
Yeah.
how did you like deal with that kind of pressure? Because that can like catch up to you a lot of times. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. What I'd say is that it helps to have a solid friend group both in work and out of work. If I didn't have people that I could hang out with, that I could complain with, that we could grab drinks with at work, God, it wouldn't have been as good of an experience, honestly, without my friends there. And also, it depends. Outside of your friends and whatnot, I think it also depends on what are you trying to get out of this. And I think understanding that and knowing that and keeping that in mind as you work helps you a lot, and for me, I knew what I wanted to get out of it. I wanted to learn a lot about this area that I didn't think I would get another chance to at another point in my career. For other people that want a career there, then hey, you know what, what it is. You're hoping for that career growth. You're hoping to make a solid career in investment banking. So just remembering what like you're going for is important too.
Yeah, and especially like as you also mentioned, like like times in COVID and just like in general too, like I could see how much work you had and stuff. But I could always see that like even when you had your full-time job, you still had the urge to do something beyond it. Like a lot of people, like get sort of like satisfied knowing that they're working in Wall Street, and that's itself for them is like a big thing, and slowly like over time they might get used to it, and then they start thinking about other things. But just if you are in finance, that's the place, like that's where all the headquarters are and all the stuff is happening. So even when you were there and you were like still young, like right after school, like what kept you like try, what was this urge, or what kept you like sort of giving motivation to try different things, and even when you had these long many hours going on?
That's a good question. I mean, I think that for me, it's because I was just that interested. I was that passionate about trying things, and I come from like an entrepreneurial background. I used to have a startup way back, and I still like the idea of trying new ideas, looking into potential ventures, and and most of the time it's just an idea, and maybe flesh it out a little bit and it goes somewhere, it doesn't go anywhere. But I think to me that also kind of keeps me sane, because I'm the kind of person that if I have a good idea, or me and my friend have a good idea, I want to investigate it. So that really gave me the motivation. It's just like, it's interesting, it's cool, I want to do it.
Yeah, no, 100%. And living this kind of life where you're constantly working back to back, in terms of like just like a normal lifestyle thing, what were some of the things that you thought were very important for you to be keeping in mind consciously on a daily basis, so that your body can like handle this every day, like even because it's like a body who with that is dealing with the entire pressure again and again every day, like sometimes 7 days a week too. So were there some things that you were thinking or taking care of consciously, or like how did it work? Yeah.
I think mentally it really helps to just know that it's not the end of the world. Like, like cool, if you make a super big mistake, then yeah, there's probably going to be some repercussions on it, right? But most of the time, like, it's not the end of the world. I have friends that, like, when they got into the industry, they couldn't like put down their phone. They couldn't put down, they'd always check for emails. They would literally get anxious if they didn't get like a phone notification from their mail. And I don't know, you got to kind of just take a deep breath.
Yeah, 100%.
and just
Anxiety is such a big factor too, like not just like finance jobs, but like other jobs too. Like people like often struggle with dealing with anxiety too, and it's a very common thing. So definitely, as you're saying, like if that taking deep breath, like if that was like something that helped you, yeah, that's
and just realize that maybe some things need to get done right now, cool, but some things also can be done tomorrow, and you do have to at some point like flip the switch,
yeah,
and just relax a little bit. So yeah.
100%. And so the time when you were making a switch from one job to another, it's often like it's again like a very tough moment when you're changing. So a little bit about 8 Sleep that I got to know is like the focus of the company's focus on smart mattresses and how they can enhance sleep of the person that's actually using the mattress with like some innovative technology. So why, and that's a very cool mission, because like we spend like 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours every day sleeping. It's such and if you don't get a good sleep, the next morning you wake up not happy. So why, can you just talk a little more about the mission, and also like what the company is trying to do?
For sure, for sure. Yeah, no, 8 Sleep is a really interesting company because for me, I didn't know of many real technology-based startups that are trying to enhance sleep. You know, you have like companies like Casper out there, or you can name whatever company you want out there, but they're just like their thing is like, oh, we make better mattresses, while this company is like, oh no, we are trying to use technology, artificial intelligence, and a couple other things to try to make your sleep as optimized, as better, as optimal as possible. So I thought that was really cool, right? That just seems new. And then you start thinking, then I started thinking and asking questions regarding like what they plan on doing with this technology. And it was really cool to hear about how the goal is to be able to basically have your bed act as a almost like a your own personal doctor. Now this is so later on, and this is possibly later on into the future, but it's very interesting that the place where you sleep, there's a lot of biometric data and information about you that can potentially be used to help diagnose you about help diagnose you for some sort of an illness, right? Whether that be a respiratory issue because they can understand how you breathe while you sleep in a resting state, your heartbeat, how does it fluctuate while you sleep, and what does that imply? And of course, they're like your sleep related illnesses like sleep apnea and etc. So I don't know, it kind of gets into like a super weird and exciting place when you can think about like how your sleep can not only can we help optimize people's sleep and make the best out of what you spend a quarter, if not a third of your life doing, but also taking it a step further and having that healthcare aspect to it. I think that's really cool.
Oh yeah, it's very important. And also like very interesting how you said, like getting so much data from just like something as basic as sleeping, which is, like in itself, if you think about it, there's so much happening within our bodies when we're sleeping, like so much. So all the repair work happens like technically when you're sleeping. So that's a very interesting point. I mean, if you don't mind, I got a bit curious when you mentioned like about AI and how you guys are using AI already. If like, I don't know if possible, if you can share an example of, because I'm very curious to know how, it's a smart mattress, while, other mattresses, as you said, they are just like mattresses, so just the AI part, yeah, it got me like a little curious, like how, yeah, you guys are using it.
For sure. And I won't lie, I'm wondering to myself, what can I say and what can I not say? But what I will say is that the ability, oops.
Yeah.
Hold up. All right, I'm gonna do it through my speaker. Can you hear me right now?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So what I'll say is that there is going to be, and there is already a machine learning aspect to the company in terms of being able to understand and make use of the data that can hopefully tell you, hey, well, part one is how do we optimize your sleep over time? Maybe it's that, hey, you tend to heat up at certain times of the night. What temperature do we need to set you at so that we can make sure your sleep is optimal? Because there's one thing about going on your phone and just setting, a certain temperature, but it might change over time. So, you need these systems that are able to adjust for you.
Yeah.
So say that maybe he doesn't sleep that well at this setting. Maybe we should change it to this. And then of course, like AI and ML comes into play when it comes into big play when it comes to the actual diagnosing of people, of illnesses, and just adjusting to every single person's specific body. Yeah.
I'm sure like the thing is just one of the things, right? Like there's so many different things which can be tracked too. So yeah, that's very interesting. To know. One last thing which I wanted to ask you was, like there are so many people who are aspiring financial, like individuals, and who are actually trying to look for jobs in the area of finance. And again, like you spoke about people who are interested in aspiring, like NYU as a university, you gave some good points. Like what are some things you would, like tell an aspiring sort of like a college student who might be like trying to, kick start his or her career in finance, like based on like, your experience, what did you do to, sort of get into a company like Goldman? And if you can share that, I think that can be quite useful. Yeah.
For sure. So it's like two parts to the question. So for the first part, what I'll say is that, for someone that wants to go into finance, reading and networking is so important. Just understanding what an investment bank does is critical. I mean, you already, as a freshman and sometimes even a sophomore in college, really understanding what an investment bank does will probably put you leagues ahead of the next candidate. How do you find out? Speak to your seniors who actually interned there, who can actually tell you like what they really do, right? Because I can tell you personally, I didn't know what an investment bank does until I went to a networking event my freshman spring, and someone explained it to me in a way I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So learn. Number one is definitely learn. And so I was actually like, and through that, learn that, okay, maybe I want to go into private wealth management. Maybe I want to go into investment banking. Maybe I want to go into sales and trading. There's so many different areas to invest into an investment bank, and there are definitely different personalities for each kind of person that enters what. So you want to see where you fall in line. And then in terms of like how do you land that role, that's more of a focus on networking. There are a lot of events that you can get through either your school. Another plug for NYU. NYU is good at hosting events where companies like BAML, Goldman, et cetera, would come and recruit there. But even if you're not going to or plan on going to a target school, as they call it, there are still opportunities to network and meet people, especially now during COVID. A lot of these events have turned virtual. So there are ways to network that way. And just use your connections,
Yeah.
If you reach out to people, just ask them for a conversation. Don't say, I'm looking for a job. Like you want to be mindful of people's time, but
that's definitely a good point. Like, because if we like reach out to people, telling them that we're actually interested in the area that they're doing or actually keen to learn, that's way different than actually, asking something from like out of them. Then it's just, a lot of times like it goes against us. And I think like one more important thing that you said, I think this, like I heard from one of my mentors, like at my internship in college, when you mentioned about reading, like he said, especially like finance and history, like goes hand in hand. So he was telling about how, like if you're actually interested in reading about history, then a lot of financial events you can study because it's a cycle, right? Like it keeps happening. If you actually know what happened in the past, like properly, what was the history, you can, like sort of work your way through the future too. So I thought that was like a very important point, like for in terms of reading and stuff too.
I agree. I think that a lot of, if you work or intern at one of these firms, what you also learn is that when you do a lot of your analysis, it is based on what have we seen before, whether it's comparables or comps, as they call it. Like, understanding the past and the implications for the future is definitely an important part of the job.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah, this has been very like interesting stuff. One last thing based on your financial job and also your university, or anything that you would like to tell people, or any of the younger kids who might be listening to this, what would that be? Like if you were to give an advice to a kid, what would you say?
Man, I think that finding your own path is very important and it's underrated. I think that people, they might go into certain situations and they think, okay, I gotta grind, do well, and then I'll end up at Morgan Stanley, then I'll be there for 2 years, and then I'm gonna go work at a private equity fund, and then whatever. I think that it's very important to, see if this is something that you'll like, because the worst thing that you could do is dedicate your life to something that you think that you'll like and end up really, really, really disliking it and burning out and ending up doing something totally different. You're in college, you're in school going to college, explore. Don't be intimidated. See what other things are, what other people are doing, or what paths there are, and just explore it. Just see what there is, because the things that everyone does is always going to be there. So don't be afraid to experiment, if you will.
No, awesome. Yeah, thanks so much, Chika, and lovely catching up with you. And thanks for sharing some of your learnings and your journey, like of your work and your college experiences too. It's been great. Thanks so much again for your time.
No problem.